Now, over in Europe, you've got three families. Okay, you have the Ferrars, I forget what this E-R-E-R or R-E-R-E. Anyway, Ferrars brothers. You've got the Moses Israel Seif out of Rome. This is France. This is Italy. And then out of Hamburg in Germany, you have the Warburg brothers. Isn't that interesting? Germany. Okay. And the Netherlands. Okay, this is the stock ownership of the Federal Reserve System. That's who the owners are. Now, we often get some information that, for example, the Rockefellers are dirty guys and bad guys, and that they really are causing problems in this country. And let's take a look at that. See, the Rockefellers own approximately, I would say, 6%. All these guys own about 6%, something like this. These guys own about 8%, according to my calculations. And this guy owns 52%. Okay, ready? Here's the biggie question. Okay, ready? Question of the day. Who makes the decisions? Interesting, isn't it? Who's the errand boy? Who's the messenger boy that carries it out? And we're fed this guy as the real problem. It takes the heat off all the others, doesn't it? Notice you kill the messenger boy, you really don't kill the message, do you? Okay, interesting stuff. Okay, here is the ownership of the Federal Reserve Bank. These are the boys who make all the money. The interest on the national debt is paid to them. Is this fun? How would you like to receive the interest on the national debt? Think that'd be a good business? Notice that this organization has never been audited and it never produces an annual report. They don't got to show you no stinking podges. Isn't this fun? If you don't pay them, they come and get your house. It's called IRS because that's the name of their collection agency. We now understand taxes to some extent. Okay? Now, I don't have time. Let's see. What are we going here? I guess, how much time have we got in this hour? Is this close to an hour? Let's take a break. We're going to come back, and we're going to show you a little bit of history from the Civil War, or from the 1913 on to the present as far as, the economics are concerned. And then we're going to show you how to really solve this problem by going into showing you how they set it up. There's two things. Just like I gave you a tip last time for the next hour. Okay, the tip to the next hour now. 2 words. There's 2 ways you will never, ever have any problem with IRS. And that is never have an income and never have any assets. Now, what we're going to show you is that all these families here in the United States have no income and they have no assets. It's called trust. So come back next hour. Trust me, you'll enjoy this. All right, so what? I got to read the script from the bank. Okay, so what we had, you guys are going to get tired of hearing this. Okay, we had Paul Warburg running the Federal Reserve System of the United States, his brother Sidney running the Citibank in England, and his brother Max getting ready to run the bank over in Germany, the Reichsbank. But at that time, before World War I, he was just simply the head of the British Secret Service, which is the position George Bush had before he was president over here. Well, moving right along. Okay, we find that there's a connection between the intelligence services and the banks because it's imperative that the bank be able to run the government. It runs it through these intelligence services. If you want to read Spycatcher, an excellent book by Peter, gosh, what's his name now? I can't think of his name. Peter Wright, okay, who is the number 2 man in British intelligence, MI5, for 14 years. Wrote a book and said that his key contact during that period of time was a fellow named Victor Rothschild, and that all of the knowledge that MI5 would develop instantly went to the KGB in Russia. He couldn't figure out how that happened because all he told was Victor Rothschild. And he was banned. He can't even come back to England. His pension was stolen. The Queen has a warrant for his arrest, and he's in Australia or something now. Another book called A Man Called Intrepid by William Stevenson, about how Roosevelt was entirely run by British intelligence before and during World War II. Every speech was cleared. Everything he said was cleared through British intelligence, and the scripts were written by them before Roosevelt said anything. So we find that through the banks, or by the banks, and through the intelligence services, the banks run the governments. It's extremely interesting to understand that. And of course, our friend George Bush has had some experience of that. All right, now, and so I don't want to overlook that point. George is one of the boys. Okay, now, So what they had to do is they had to get into Russia. So they had a fellow over here named Trotsky, okay, Leon Trotsky. Trotsky had some, that was not his real name. His real name was something else. I forget what it was. Anyway, it was some New York name, okay? It was not Russian, okay? What he had was a bunch of hoodlums that he'd recruited out of the east side over in New York, and and they all changed their name to Russian, and then they went over in a boat with $20 million from Jacob Schiff, who was the senior partner of Q and Loeb Bank, and they met in what was called Petrograd, which is today called Leningrad, and I guess they're going to change that again. But anyway, with a fellow named Lenin. Okay, now Lenin had come from Germany, of course, initially, and he was given $6 million by Sidney Warburg from the British Bank through Alfred Milner. Well, anyway, so what I want to point out is these banks entirely set up the conflict that led to communism in Russia, and so they went over and they started the Communist Party, and then they decided they'd have a little meeting with the Tsar. So the Tsar got together with his family and everything, and they went in and they machine gunned the entire Romanov family, and that's how you end a blood feud. No problem. From then on, they had a red star in Russia, and the Rothschild flew from the mast, and it's been there ever since. All right, and the United States completely supported that with our tax money, because the taxes started in 1913, and they couldn't start world communism until 4 years later. Somebody had to pay for it, you see, because communism is a defunct form of government. It can't produce anything. It is a parasite, and it's an interesting thing if you're into parasitology. A parasite has two things that he has to do. He has to make the host think that he's necessary, you see, and then also he has to make the host ill. He has to make the host sick, so the host is unable to dislodge him. And next hour we'll talk about the AMA, okay, and things like that. Okay, because we see that the food industry in this country and the water industry is not here to make us well, is it? A sick host is always easier to control. The parasite requires his host to be ill. And so we run around with all these things, with Anacin constantly being advertised on TV and all this garbage. And we're just, health is something we're really not into until some guys, I guess in LA are, but that's about it. The rest of the world isn't too interested. It's back to the meat and potatoes and fluoridation. All right. I mean, it does kill germs. It also kills rats. Okay. So you'll have good teeth on your skeleton. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. Okay. Who wants to die with bad teeth? Okay. So we have Trotsky went over and started this whole nonsense over there. And so we find that, of course, it was set up the entire thing in Russia and so forth. I just wanted to show you how the banking sets all this up. Like we can go into lots of details. There's at the end of the program here, I think Guy is going to go into some of the books that are available. The best books that I know of, the three best books that I'd recommend reading are, number one, The Unseen Hand by Ralph Epperson. It gives you a great panorama. See, it's necessary before you get into the specifics to see the whole panorama, just to know what part of this canyon are you in now, when you read some little specific item, okay? Then the next book I would recommend reading would be Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins. And then there's a little pamphlet back there called Billions for the Bankers. It only takes a few minutes to read it. Kind of gives you a quick picture. If you just have a little bit of time, the Unseen Hand will take you a long time to read. But it's very profitable reading. You'll understand a lot more after you finish it. Then there's about 200 other books that we have in a book list that once you read those, then you kind of have the overview. You can see what area you're interested in and go for it. Different people are interested in different areas, And so that's kind of what I would say for an overview. Okay, then of course we had World War I, and then we had World War II. When World War I, of course, got Russia into the communist fold and put all the Eastern banks, which were not too subservient to the Rothschild. That was the result of World War II. Was we went in and we gave all the Eastern European countries to the Rothschild Bank after World War II, and the United States comes back. The United States now has a function. If you go back to, it's interesting. If you really go back into the roots of this thing, you go back into the Talmud, which was written in Babylon, strangely enough, in the year 1040. I don't know if there's a coincidence there or if that's just another plan. Okay? But anyway, and it says that, of course, the Gentiles, which are your non-Jewish people, were just dogs. They're just the slaves and so forth, and they're to work for their master. And I have dogs. I have a German Shepherd, very nice dog, and he goes with me everywhere. And his job is to protect his master, and he does a good job. The job of the United States now is to protect its master. So wherever its master has a problem, whether it's Iran, Vietnam, or Korea, wherever, we go there and protect our master. Isn't that interesting? Our master is the Federal Reserve System. The United States is the colonial army for the Bank of London. And we've been the colonial army for the Bank of London since 1913. If you don't understand our foreign policy, it's because you don't understand banking. You see, the policy isn't really all that foreign. It's actually bank policy. It's not foreign policy. And we go wherever the bank wants us to go. So wherever the boys with the bank have a little need, well, then our boys go and we die and we bleed for that need. Now we understand the military. It's too bad. The reason that we're talking about it is because maybe if more people know something about it, we can solve the problem. Okay? Now, so that's, now that we discussed the military, we discussed World War I, we discussed World War II, Korea, Vietnam, so forth. Somebody is making some money, or it simply doesn't happen. Okay, now, so what we see was that in 1913, a switch was made. We switched from the Constitution to the Manifesto. Your senators here, your congressmen, some of them are exceptions, of course, have generally voted entirely for the Manifesto. They will not make any decision accidentally in favor of the Constitution at any time. Okay? And so it's important that we understand this, because we want to know which country our representative is representing us to. You see, because if he's representing us to America too, well, there isn't much point. And if he's not representing us to America 1, and he doesn't know anything about it, then we should either tell him or get somebody in who does know something about it, because that's where the solution comes also. But it comes from within us. The solution doesn't come from out there, and it doesn't come from them. It comes from you, and it comes from me. And it's tremendous, this power, you see. And tremendous power. This is the power which enables David to kill Goliath. This is the ultimate solution to all problems. As soon as you can do it, then you'll take care of it. Reminds me of the Aesop fable of the sparrows that were in the field. And the mother came back one day, and the bird said, oh, they were all excited that the farmer was out with all of his neighbors, and they were going to mow the field, and they'd have to go. And the mother bird says, no, don't worry, we're safe. And so about a week later, the birds came back, and they said, well, you know, it's really, the farmer was out here with his sons, and they said that they were going to come back tomorrow and mow the field. And the mother said, no, we're not going to worry about that. Don't worry. And so the next week, the farmer came out, or the little bird said, mother, the farmer came out, and he said, and he was all alone. He says, well, tomorrow he's going to come out and cut the field. And she says, now, he says, children, we have to move. You see, as long as the farmer was relying on someone else to do it, it would never get done. That's probably a 3,000-year-old story, okay? It's just as true then as it is today, okay? If you're waiting for somebody else to do it, it ain't going to happen. You're just kidding yourself, okay? If you decide you're going to do it, aha, then something will get done, okay? And that's the story of human nature.